Hi everyone, my name is Simon Bevy, Executive Director of Transform Nations, and it's a blessing for us to have a conversation during this time of crisis. I know many of you are home. The world has really changed in the way we do things because of this COVID-19, but we're hoping and praying that at least things will get a bit better very soon. And today we wanted to talk about helping our boys cope with the stress that they're experiencing at home. And a lot of what I'm going to say also applies to the girl. So it's not just the boy, and also in contrast, you will find a lot of help for the girls as well. But parenting is definitely not easy. It's usually not easy during normal times, and it's been complicated by what we are going through right now. And so I know many of you have done some of our programs. We have the Man Enough programs. Those of you who have done the men's program, you're welcome. We have the EZA program. Some of you have gone through it, which is for ladies. It's about discovering their femininity, and that has gone very well. And I know some of you are joining us out of that. Then we have the Mothers of Sons. So a while ago, we got a lot of mothers coming to us and asking us, we need you to help us with our boys because our boys are not doing well. They are becoming a challenge and we need your help. Then we said, why don't we work together with you to know how to help the boys? And so we began the Mothers of Sons program. 8 weeks, we take the mothers through understanding the boy and how to deal with the boy through the developmental stages. And it's also done very well. Then we have the ID, we have the Intentional Dad program. And this is for fathers. It's about helping them understand how to father well, getting the skill, but also the understanding of their children and how to walk with them and walk alongside them. And so we do the Intentional Dad. Excuse me. And I know some of you are joining us from Intentional Dad. And then some of you are from Boys to Men. So we have this boys program where we meet. We've been meeting every month to mentor the boys, to walk with them, with mentors, to enable them to understand their journey and to deal with different challenges that they're facing. And so we have the Boys to Men program. We have well-trained mentors who walk with boys and help them through their challenges. So in case some of you are going through those challenges with your boys, and you need a one-on-one conversation with one of our mentors, feel free to type out as we continue and just give that comment and leave your message. We're going to get back to you. Excuse me. And so we want to right now delve into what we are discussing. Of course, this is online, so I can only do so much. I won't be able to take as long to cover all the things that I would have wanted to cover. And of course, we're saying that our boys are definitely under stress because of the reality of this COVID-19 and what it has caused. And it's going to take a lot of understanding of our boys to help them cope with that stress, but also the information and skill, that is competence, to be able to walk alongside them. Now, I have a boy that I'm raising as well who is 15 right now, and I have 2 daughters, and so I really understand this parenting thing, especially for teenagers. My last born is 11 now, and the first girl is 18, just turned 18. And then the boy is 15. So I'm in the middle of this, and a lot of what I'm going to say is out of the experience that we have had mentoring boys and working with boys for the last few years. Actually, not few, up to 10 years. And also my own personal experience and what is out there. And so what's the reality right now that has changed life as we know it, and that has made it difficult for us and for the boys that we're raising up? Number one is limited interactions. Of course, our boys are just around us and around, very limited neighbors because of the social distancing. And so they don't have the schoolmates and the playmates that they do soccer together or football or other games together, rough it out in school. They don't have that, and that's stressful for them. That all they have is either, like my boy, is only the sisters and myself and the mom, and so he has limited interactions, and that is stressful stressful for him because boys love it when they are out there with other boys. Boys belong to the team, belong to the gang, belong to the tribe, and they love to do some things together with those gangs of boys or groups. So it's not easy for them. And secondly is reduced activities. Of course, boys love physical activities. They love to run around, to kick the dust, to throw some stones, to lift up each other, to chase after the ball. They just have a lot of energy and they need a place where they can do that. And now we have this limited room and a little compound for many of us where they cannot do much. They want to throw balls around and throw things around, and it's limited and it's a challenge. I've had a lot of cautions to my son, just telling him, stop doing that. Don't play ball here. Don't do this. There's some limitations. We have this and the other, which could break. So reduced activities for the boys is stressful as well. And of course, there is less structure. We've come to learn out of the way the brain of a boy works that they just need a lot more structure. So school really works for them because there's a structure. They know what time they arrive, what time they get into class, when they have a break, when they get to eat, when they go out. There's less structure right now. It's just more fluid around home. And that's not easy for boys. It's stressful. And of course, there's greater exposure to technology, and boys get many times with technology, they can easily get overstimulated. And the way technology is, it's exciting, there's this and the other. You can stop this and change and look at something else. And life generally is not like that. And when children, and especially boys, spend a lot of hours on technology, then they get disoriented. That overstimulation makes it hard for them to get back to what is the normal, boring life. So greater exposure to technology, and of course long hours with family, familiar people in ways that they have not done before. They have to be with dad and mom for much longer and listen to them and hear their instructions for a longer time. That's not as easy. And I want to ask you, as we continue, please make a comment, say where you're listening this from, and what is making sense to you. Please feel free to make those comments. And of course, the other reality is increased stress factors. There are several other stress factors that have contributed to this, like education online. For them to be at home and going to computer or to their iPads and they're studying and listening, it's not easy. It's more stressful than just being in class and being able to deal with those issues. So they're limited. There's education online is a stress factor. There's a lockdown and isolation. A lot of them just feeling we're in this place, we can't go out. My small girl keeps asking me, when are we going to be able to go out? My son wants to go out all the time. That's a stress factor. Of course, the fear of disease and all the precautions that we are taking, washing hands all the time, having to wear masks when we go out for shopping and stuff like that, will make our children ask questions and wonder, are we okay? Are we safe? There are several other things that make it stressful for our children. But we need to just move on so that we get down to the way to help them in this reality. And I want you to understand that boys are boys in nature, and they're different from girls because of the way they were created. Biology, the hormones and the brain structure is different from that one of girls, and so they're just different. And of course, there's the nurturing as well, the socialization. So we have nature, biology, brain, and hormones, and all of that. And then we have the way we socialize them. So all of that makes boys definitely different from girls. I love what the Bible says. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, it says, so God created mankind in his own image. In other words, we are created in God's image. And it says, in the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. So both of us, male and female, we were created in God's image. But we are different, male and female, we are different. In our DNA, we are different, XY and XX. We are different. We were created equal. but we are different. And so as we share some of the things, we're not making boys in any way look better than girls or girls look better than boys. We're just different, and we have to deal with those realities and socialize them. And as parents, our deal is to understand those differences and then put the structure of values. So that even though boys are more prone to be this way, they need to remain within the values of society that make us humans. So we can all learn. I love Proverbs 22, verse 6. It says, train up a child in the way that he should go. When he's old, he'll not depart from it. See, that's the work of us as parents, to train our children, to school them, to socialize them, to train them values. We also give them the skills to be able to live better. After this amplified version of that verse says, train up a child in the way that he should go, in keeping with his personal gifts, and also with his bent, with the way he is, his personality, and his gender, and all. Put that into consideration as you train him. So when he's old, he will not forget what you trained him. He may depart from it in terms of choices, but he will never forget the way you trained him. So we do a great job as parents, and I know you're doing a great job. It's not easy, but this is our lot, that as parents we socialize and train our boys in values and in skills so that they may live better without us. There are a few facts that I can't delve into them, and maybe in another conversation we're going to delve into it. But just as a way of statement, boys' brains have more gray matter, and girls' brains have more white matter. And what that means, the gray matter localizes the brain activity in a single part of the brain. In other words, the way the brain of a boy and man is structured, they get to focus on one thing at a time. That's the way their brain is. White matter for the girls enables them to be able to go in and out from one hemisphere to another, the left to the right, and be able to deal with several things at the same time. So some have said boys are like waffles. I don't know whether you know what a waffle is. Just a little boxes, many boxes. So boys think in boxes. They get into one box, they focus into it, and they have very little understanding of what's going on in the other boxes. Then they get into another box, and then they get into another box, almost in a robot-like manner. When they fix their gaze and activity in one box, then they're likely to stick there and almost zone out all other activities around the other boxes. But girls are like spaghetti. They're just all over. Their brain is able to move from feelings to logic and to writing and to this. And so they're just a lot more flexible in their brain activity. In fact, one of the men, Michael Gurian, who has studied brain activity a lot, says when you take a picture of a girl's brain when she is asleep, you see a lot of light all over the place. When you take the picture of this kind of a boy when he's asleep, you just see one or two lights. For the girl, there's activity everywhere. For the boy, it's just one or two, lights in the brains. The other facts, so the brains are different, and then of course the hormones are different. Boys have a lot more testosterone than girls in a big way, and so that affects them a lot. And the other fact, before we now go to the practical things on how to help boys cope with this stress, is that boys have delayed development. Boys just delay a little bit more in their development, especially in motor skills, the ability to write. They're just a year or a year and a half, a lot, behind than girls. The same with speech, the same with the ability to hear. I was excited when I read in one of the books by a guy called Leonard Sachs, and he writes about these findings in biology, that actually the hearing capacity of boys doesn't fully develop until much later. In other words, girls are a lot more able to pick up, sounds and speeches and wavelength of sounds in the atmosphere a lot better than boys. In fact, for boys, they catch up when they're around 14 years. And so I learned this because I was talking to some fathers of girls, and I took the girls first somewhere and asked them, what are some of the things you want your dads to stop doing before I go to talk to them? And a lot of them said, okay, we want them to stop watching too much TV, to come home earlier and spend more time with us. And then all of them said, we would like dad to stop shouting. And so I had to go and do some research and come to because I came to the fathers and told them, your girls don't want you to shout. And I said, no, we don't shout. And so I had to explain out of the research I'd done that when you speak at the same tone with your daughter as you speak to your son, to your girl, you're shouting, to your boy, I can't really hear you, Dad. Make it louder. I can't hear you. So part of it is our brain activity that we get to lock to something. And if we are watching TV and you're calling your boy, he really can't hear you because that sounds like background noise. He's just focused on his game, on whatever else he's doing. And also the tone of voice. You don't need to shout, but you need to up your tone of voice when you're speaking to the boys as compared to the girls. Well, let's get into now some of the practical things. Again, we're saying for boys, they've gone through a lot more stress because of a limitation of activity and other things, and we just need to help them as parents. The first one is, I've already mentioned that boys, a single task, tunnel vision. And so they're more likely to struggle with this thing of being at home and they're on their computers and they're trying to work. And then another message comes up. It's just likely for that to distract them, or mom calls them, or something else happens. It's just likely to distract them. Boys are more deep focused on one thing at a time. And so as you talk to them, as you instruct them, just realize sometimes when they're fixed on the math problem they want to solve, sometimes they can't even hear you, what you're saying. And you just need to maybe come in front of them and wave at them and say, I am talking to you. What that means also is that boys need a bit of time in transition. To transition from one activity to another, they need a bit of time. If they were watching TV and you want them to read, just tell them, hey, in 10 minutes or 5 minutes, you need to conclude what you're doing because you need to go to sleep or you need to go to your computer. So they always need transition time. Don't just tell them, hey, wake up right now and get to your books, or wake up right now and go to sleep. No, they just need time because of their brain activity to transition. What that means also for boys is that they need deadlines. They need to be told that you're going to watch this thing for 10 minutes. You're going to do this activity for 1 hour. They just need like a timetable. So I help them have a timetable, structure their work so that it's easy for them. And of course, it means boys need a lot more repetition sometimes. Repeat things and then give one instruction at a time. Just one instruction at a time. It's easy for me to tell my daughters, go to your room, brush your teeth, make your bed, pick up your socks, and do this, and come back. And girls are more likely to do all of those instructions. Now try that with your son. If you tell him 5 things to go and do, like I found my son the other day, just walking around his room, almost, in a dazed situation. I asked him, what are you doing, son? And he said, I'm trying to remember what my mom told me to do, because she taught me like 5 things. Boys, you need to tell them 1 instruction at a time or 2 at a time, and then let them go through that, and then you can tell the others because of their brain activity, what's going on. Boys are also very bottom line. Many times they want to know, what do you want me to do? Just tell me the bottom line. Make the goal clear, what you want me to do. When it's hazy and boys don't understand what's going on and where this is going and when we are going to go back to school and when this is going to stop and how long they should read, it just confuses them. It increases stress on them. They just like clear rules and clear goals. The other day, my son was throwing the ball around and asked him, why are you doing that here? And he said, but you didn't tell me that I cannot do that here. It's almost like he wants every rule to be said and written down. He's not going to assume that he understands. In other words, boys, like husbands, don't read people's minds. Don't assume they understand what they need to do. Say it in black and white, and then they're going to get it. Now, you need to know that boys take longer to process, especially events and information that has deep emotions. They take a longer time to process. That's why we talk about the cave. When my wife, for example, comes and tells me a lot of stories, and some of them are not good stories, maybe someone has passed on, or someone is unwell, or this and that, and then they tell me, what do you think we could do? I just say, give me time. I need to go into my cave and process all of that, and then I'll get back to you. So in other words, help your boys process this COVID thing and why they can't go to school and what's going on and why you don't even know when they'll go back to school. Help them process that because it's hard for them. And sometimes they just keep quiet and go into a cave and they look like they're in a daze, but they're in a cave place where they need to process all the things. So help them talk through the emotions, what they're feeling. Are they sad because of a loss? Are they angry because of frustration of being at home and they just feel annoyed and angry with the situation? Are they scared that they can't go to school, they can't go to shop, they can't greet their neighbors? Are they scared? Help them deal with all of that. Again, as we continue, please type up some of the things that, if they work for you, if you understand how this relates to your situation, we'd love to see your comments. And if you have a question, also type it out. I will answer later when this is done. But help your children, especially your boys, deal with their emotions. Teach them how to name their emotion and how to process it. Just tell them right now you're just angry, you're frustrated because we don't know when you're going back to school and when this thing is going to end. And that's okay. People get through frustration. And when they're angry, they don't throw things around. They don't lock themselves in their room forever. We don't do that. These are emotions we need to deal with. The other thing is, of course, boys have huge amounts of testosterone, huge amounts. And that makes them, want to be very active and very aggressive. And they just have a lot of energy that they need to expend. So it's frustrating for them when they cannot do that. So you need to create the space for them to do some active activity, even if it's in the house, pull away all the furniture and do some things do some rough activities with them. They're going to enjoy that. They just have more activity that they need to get involved in, physical especially, and aggressive. So create space and time for that as well, where possible. The other thing is they need, of course, a lot more space for physical exploration. They're energetic and they need just clear wins. If you're doing some games with them or doing education, show them some clear wins. Men and boys do very well with a clear win. When is it that I win? When is it I know that I have succeeded? Tell me that. Make it clear for me. They need some activities which are short tension, build up, and then release. That's why they love sports, because the win is clear and it's short, it builds up quickly, and someone scores, and then they're okay. They need such kind of activities created in the house. Of course, boys enjoy stories, but especially stories where there's some action and movement. There's one time that some twins, one of my mothers in Mothers of Sons program, came with some twins, and they were around maybe 7, 8 years old. And then when the class was going on, I took the twins outside and I began to talk to them and asked them, tell me a story that your teacher told you. And the girl told this long story with birds and butterflies and flowers and the relationship around these two girls and where they were going and what happened to them. And she had all the emotions involved. And I was so impressed, it felt like a movie. And then I asked the boy, can you tell me the same story or a different story? And the boy could just remember 2 things about the story. There's this one boy who beat up the other, and then they were taken for punishment. But it was all about movement. And there was this boat that capsized, and then the people died. That's what he could remember. That's what he was excited to talk about, the action, the movement. And that happens between me and my wife as well. Sometimes we watch a movie and then we debrief brief. And I'm saying, wow, I love that guy, the way he got the bad guys and the way he locked them up. And this what he did. It was more the action. And then my wife says, I didn't even see that. For me, I was just wondering, is this guy going to separate with the husband? What's going to happen? For her, it's about the stories of relationships and the emotions that are happening there. The story build up. And for me, it's about what happened, who got busted. It's more the action. So remember that when you're giving stories to your boys, make sure that it has that part of the boy. Of course, boys are more likely to be rougher in their interactions. So that's why you're likely to deal more with discipline issues with the boy. They were rough to their sister, or they did that, or they were not very sensitive about the other person. I keep saying that to my son, please don't do that. Don't treat your sister like that. Don't throw her around. You could break, her nose or something. Because it's just more likely to be rougher, and have to guide him and instruct him a lot more. Boys are just more likely to be chaotic and noisy as a way of releasing the stress inside of them. When my boy is, they're cleaning the utensils, many times it's just noisy and singing and making funny, crazy noises. Sometimes I have to go and tell him their neighbors, their people need to sleep. Stop doing that. And sometimes he's just releasing his stress. And you just need to understand him and guide him in terms of structures, what he could do and what he cannot. Because of this, and many boys need some time of rest. In fact, in teenage boys will sleep a lot more than girls. They just need some time to rest because of their activity and what they do, and they just need time to rest. So sometimes you just need to allow that. And when they wake up, they take longer to reboot. This morning I woke up my girl because they had a language class, and my son as well. And my son took like 15 minutes to be ready for class. My daughter woke up like in 2 minutes. She was down and she was ready for class. Boys just take longer to reboot, and you need to understand that and allow them to sleep long enough so that they can also deal with the stress they're going through. I'm sure you're relating with this. Please continue to tell us where you're listening from and tell us what is relevant, and please just leave some comments. Just a few more minutes and we're going to be done. Well, boys deal very badly with failure, a lot worse than girls do. And so just think a lot about their wins and celebrate them in their wins. They're more competitive, so they want to win, and you just need to help them realize they need to compete, but compete well. If you're trying to encourage them to eat, just tell them, let's compete and see who's going to finish eating first. They're going to finish faster because they love competition. So use competition for them, not against them, and help them understand the wins that they need to have. Help them in that. Help them clarify the wins when they fail and they're not doing very well in getting this maths or this English or this language online. Just encourage them and be there for them, because they take it hard when they lose. In fact, they say a lot of boys don't like school because they don't like it when they lose. They just don't want to do that. In fact, the other day I was telling my son, you guys need to work harder so that you will be able to go for honor roll. In our school, you go for honor roll when you do really well. And he said, I don't really care about that honor roll. I said, well, we care. Do you know why he doesn't care? Because he didn't qualify the last one. So not qualifying and losing out makes him feel like, I don't even want to compete anymore. I don't want to go for it. And you just need to help him understand how to take failure okay. How to take failure okay. That it doesn't matter when they fail, they're not getting the math or something else. It's okay that they can be able to deal with that. Well, the other thing is when you're talking to the boys, just realize they're more shoulder to shoulder. Girls are face to face. Girls want you to look at them because they read what is going on in your face. My wife is like that. Many times she wants me to look at her during a date and have a conversation. But men are more shoulder to shoulder. It's just easier for me to be taught some things when we're walking and I'm not looking at her and she's talking and I'm looking at the birds and looking out there. It's just easier for me, shoulder to shoulder, that you don't have to look to your boy, especially when he has done something wrong. down. Don't tell him, look at me, why did you do that? Many times they look down, they feel ashamed, but sometimes when you take a walk, like my son, when I want to really correct him and have a long speech with him, I like to take a walk and talk to him when he's not looking at me. It's always just a lot better. So a few more things and we're going to be done. Boys just struggle a lot more with some issues of academics than girls. And here are some ways to help them as they study at home so that you reduce the stress. Number one, boys need more times of break. I was talking to a teacher in one part of the world who teaches in Europe, and she was telling me because of gender science, we're required to have our training for 15 minutes for boys, and we give them 2 minutes, 5 minutes to go out, jump around, do something, come back, then they can focus because of testosterone releases. Sometimes they're just fidgety and they're not able to sit on one spot and focus. They just want to do something, push something. And so just understand that as you're guiding them at home, that they need quick, like 15 minutes of study or 20 minutes, then a little break, they go out and they do something else, and that sort of helps them. Be patient with them, especially in languages and writing and reading. Boys are always a little behind, like a year and a half behind in that. In fact, in some schools, I understand this gender science do not allow boys to go to school until at least 7, because at that point they have matured a lot more. So just be patient with your boy. Don't compare them with the sister when it comes to languages and writing and certain things like that. The sisters are more likely to do a lot better and faster than your boy. Encourage them to use words. Many times they say, No. Just help them know how to communicate and to use words and articulate themselves. Where possible, allow someone else to come and help them or talk with them so that they can get outside help. I've just realized boys a lot of times, they like to hear not only from their dad or their mom, but from someone else, especially during teenage. So if your brother is there or someone else, their elder sibling is there, involve them in helping your boy as well learn. More boys and girls avoid homework and try to take shortcuts in school. That's what research shows all over the world. And so when they're trying to take a shortcut and cheat and avoid homework, just understand they're boys and create the structures that will make sure they do their homework. Of course, it's not to be excused. Just create the kind of structures that will help them be able to do their homework and not to slip through your fingers. The other thing is be firm. Boys understand authority. So be firm when you're talking to them about this is what you need to do, and now you need to go and sleep. Now you need to work up. Now you need to do the dishes. Just be firm. Authority matters for boys. They want to hear you come straight and come firmly, especially for mothers. I just encourage them. There are times you just need to put your foot down. Don't be harsh about it, but just be firm. Another day I went to talk to some boys in a boys' school, and these are teenagers, so they're just rowdy and they want to talk. When I'm talking, and the teacher is talking to them before he introduced me, and many of them are talking. I could see them talking, and when I stood up, I just kept quiet for like a minute or two, and it was awkward. And then I told everyone, you better keep quiet because I'm not going to talk until you keep quiet. And the noise just died off. And then I told them, I'm the one who is talking from the front, and I'm not going to talk if I see any of you talking. And immediately I had authority. I didn't need to shout about it. Half into my talk, several boys there were talking to each other. I stopped. I looked at them and said, do you want me to stop talking, or do you want to stop talking so that I continue talking? And no one else talked for the time I talked. I gained more authority than the teacher right there because I was able to use the authority. So you need to be firm when you're dealing with your boys and help them deal with that, whatever it is they're struggling with. Well, I know I've talked for a long time, and there's a lot more that we could say. Of course, the other things I need to say as I come towards a conclusion, there's just so much more that I could say. Hey, did I tell you that boys need structure and boundaries? So you need to have a well-written timetable. I always encourage parents during sorry. I'm sorry about that. It's a little accident there. I always encourage parents that during the times of break, when kids are on break, please make sure you have a very clear timetable, timetable that shows them this is when you wake up, this is when you go to sleep, this is what you do, this is when you eat, this is when you go out for break. Boys do well with that. They have boundaries, they have structures, they know that this is how boys do very well with that. So my conclusion is this: to help your boy deal with the stress that they're going through right now is, number one, you need to understand that they're wired differently. So don't judge them like the girls or judge them differently. Everyone is unique, but gender also is a unique thing, girls and boys, and then personality. So put that into consideration as you work with them, and work with them with patience. Work with them with patience. I know for the fathers especially, sometimes you just get very impatient with your children, especially with your son. I know a father who got so impatient one time, he said, I brought you into this world, I could take you out of it. Well, don't get into those lengths. Just cool off. When you feel frustrated, take a walk or go to your room for a moment and cool off and come back. That's why we pay teachers, because they have a lot of patience to work with our boys especially, but our children. So these are the two things I've said, especially for the sake of the fathers. They always like bottom line. What are you saying? Number one, understand your boys are different, they're wired differently, and work with them in those differences. Number two, supervise them so that they will be able to do the practices of stress relief. There are several things that help them when they are stressed. Number one, eating well. They shouldn't be eating junk all the time. Eating well actually helps with stress, dealing with stress, managing stress. Number two, exercise. Just doing some exercises at home, inside the house, or at the door, or whatever else. Just help them and work with them. Some exercise is going to help them clear their mind and lessen their stress. Sleeping enough. Make sure that they're going to bed and sleeping the 6 hours to 8 hours every day, that they're not watching too much TV or staying up too late. That affects them negatively in terms of stress management. Of course, talking through the conflicts and the whatever it is they are feeling, the fears and the scare and the sadness that they may be feeling. Help them deal with that so that it will lessen their stress. And of course, help them manage their stress levels by talking through. They need connection. Girls, when they deal with stress, they connect with others. Boys, they withdraw sometimes or look for activity. So help them connect with them and talk with them through these things. Well, it's a lot that we have talked through, and thankfully this is going to be on our YouTube. We're going to post it, and we will post it here, so keep listening to this. We're going to be having more talks like this on parenting in the coming days. So check our website and get notifications of when we're doing this. We'll continue these conversations. We will be glad to hear your comments. Again, we're going to be doing some of our classes online very soon. And so check this out. We're going to be doing the Mothers of Sons, where we go through 8 topics and we get deeper. We talk about technology, we talk about sex, education, we talk about a lot more. The intentional dad as well, we get to do that. And then, of course, the other courses that we have. So we want to invite you and we want to walk with you. And during this time, we want to wish you well. Parenting has great benefits. Well, it's an eternal investment. Work you may have today and tomorrow you don't have it because of COVID-19, but your children are a gift that God has given you to invest in them. Invest in them. And the fruit will be there in a generation you will not even be part of. And so be encouraged in your parenting. When you feel tired, just remember you're investing in children. You're creating better citizens for us in our country, and you're creating better people for tomorrow. So may the Lord bless you. May God help you in your parenting journey. And may you remember that what you're doing, investing in your children, is invaluable. Keep doing it. And let's have all the patience that we need. And we would love to hear more from you. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you. God bless you.